Hi everyone, my name's Andy Asher.
My name's Laura Leone, and this is a Let's Talk Variety show.
We have lots to talk about this week. Did you hear that Pope Francis shamed and challenged the US and world leaders about climate change? Now, everywhere there has been lots of chatter about that.
Pope Francis challenging world leaders to fight global warming before it's too late.
We'll hear more in just a few moments.
This week's segment of the Supermarket Tabloids, there is Taylor Swift and Kansas City Chief football star Travis Kelce, and we'll be going into that a little bit later.
Yeah, that's a great story. I'm going to follow that to the bitter end. Now, what are doctors saying about Nattokinase? It is derived from a traditional Japanese food called natto, and it could extend life.
Dr. Gupta, could you please talk about Nattokinase? And the reason I did not comply with this request was simply because I did not know anything about Nattokinase.
That's amazing, Andy, because I've taken it before, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't speak to that. And with Pope Francis, I was looking into that, and he actually took a square aim at the US for not doing enough about climate change and stating that the planet will reach a point where, that it could become worrisome. So, let's take a look at that.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about it.
Pope Francis challenging world leaders to fight global warming before it's too late. The pontiff telling the UN the world is quickly reaching a point of no return and steps need to be taken to prevent even more damage.
Now, Pope Francis has been a vocal advocate for addressing climate change. He highlighted the impact of human activities and Earth's ecosystems and stressed the importance of it. Sustainable development and caring for our planet overall, which I do love, the planet, so that's kind of nice.
Now, another thing's going on, our bodies are not producing enough of certain enzymes that according to some experts, especially after we get past age 50. Now, some doctors and researchers believe that Nattokinase can reduce the risk of blood clots. So I just wanted to find out a little bit more about Nattokinase. It's derived, I learned from a traditional food called natto, a Japanese food. Here's what I found out by listening to some of these doctors and researchers.
Incidentally, natto is also a very good source of vitamin K2.
The other thing I wanted to mention is it may help reduce inflammation and support overall heart health. Therefore, this is what the experts say, individuals over 50 can reportedly benefit from incorporating Nattokinase into their daily routine.
And Andy, actually in our Supermarket Tabloid segment, Gwen Stefani, one of my favorites, was featured this week in People magazine. I believe it was her 53rd birthday, and I used to be an avid listener of her in the 90s. She started out in the band No Doubt and had a very successful solo career after that. So I'm really a big fan of hers. And something else in the tabloid rack at the grocery store was the Travis Kelce possibly a romantic relationship with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift showed up to one of the Chiefs football games, and we'll be following that.
Yeah, I've been watching that a little bit because I do watch football on TV, and I watched both of those games where she popped up, in the in one of the box seats, and she was just screaming with joy and excitement, And then I was talking with a friend the other day, and she said, well, have you heard about this? And, I didn't think that she would really care that much about it. And then I saw all of the magazines, the tabloids, and every single one had something. Some had a bigger picture than others. So, what can you do? It brings some excitement to life.
Exactly.
And here is my favorite. Time magazine is commemorating pets. Pets for me are my unsung heroes who bring so much happiness and joy to life.
this week, we also have romance writer Emmy McAnum, and Andy here had a wonderful interview with her about her new book. It's an uplifting tale with self-actualization and surprising plot twists. I look forward to reading it.
You must have a lot of personal experience on the topic of romance, if I'm not getting ahead of the whole issue here, but in terms of looking at the book. Well,
it's been inspired about what I've heard from my friends in the world of dating, and it's significantly inspired by my experience running the assisted living and interacting with seniors and their families, and experiencing that the seeds of who we are continue to our last breath. And there's a tendency in the world to erase people as they get older, and especially by the time they're well into their senior years.
Well, I'm sure you have some deep thoughts on that.
I do. I remember seeing one of the sweetest love affairs with a couple of residents who lived in the assisted living that I was running. It was so sweet. I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but at 9 o'clock at night, when the gentleman left the lady's apartment, he looked very happy. So whatever the nature of their connection was, it was love. This particular couple comes to mind because their family was opposed. They did not think it was appropriate that these people would have this kind of relationship. And unfortunately, they separated them. One moved out, the family moved the man out, and the woman walked around like a lost puppy. And it wasn't long after that her family moved her to memory care. Yeah, it was really, really sad. It was mostly a broken heart.
In this case, love and romance, which is probably even more tragic.
It's very tragic, and it's also a reasonable debate. At what point is it not appropriate for somebody to fall in love? And there was some dementia going on. I mean, truly, 30% of people die with dementia. Not from dementia, but as time goes on, it becomes a factor of many stories. I would say that does not mean you're not appropriate for being loved. Well, this particular story is Charlotte, our lead character, is 60 years old, but we meet her in the first chapter at 75 years old, running, well, she thinks she's running the 5-star hotel, which really is the assisted living where she lives.
I see.
And she has Lewy body dementia, which is intermittent. There are hallucinations, and you can appear to be fine and then drop into this other reality. And so that first chapter is informative about Charlotte, the seeds of Charlotte that continued, and the decline, the moment of decline. So the reader is inside her version of the world at the end of that chapter. We meet her second chapter, however, running her 5-star hotel and in total competence.
Yeah.
Whether you find a partner or not, I think it's really important to live your sensual life all the way to the end of the story. Now, it is lucky if you've got a partner, as this couple did, where they could enjoy love with one another. But I think it's real important that we find a number of ways of having that sensual energy in our lives, which might be having flowers or beautiful photography, like you talked about. You take pictures and you do film. I just think it's really important. Is it bubble baths? Is it candles on the table during dinner? There's got to be a recognition of keeping that form of vibrancy alive.
What do you hope others will learn from your book? And I think that you pretty well said it just right there.
I believe we need to live joy to our last breath. And taking Charlotte through the story, including her decline, lets us see that no matter what the story becomes, whether it's physical challenges or cognitive challenges, we have the right and the need for the special life that is there for us.
Is there anything that is predictive about dating after a certain age in life?
Well, you can go to emispirit.com to see some of my writings, but I would say after a certain age, you're aware of the challenges. It doesn't mean that in your 20s, you can't have a partner who's in a motorcycle accident or a boat accident, or they get some kind of cognitive challenge. It can happen at any age. But as we get older, the percentages are changing. There's a higher percentage that a change is coming. And so dating then is different, and it's more of a seize the moment, really savor the moments we have. And we need to celebrate them in a different way and also recognize what the challenges can be.
It's a good thing about reaching a certain point in life, you realize the urgency of that, and you don't waste your time.
Well, that's true. And I would say the other thing is, if you keep your mind open, it's a time of savoring. We may have slowed down a bit. For instance, I ran a marathon when I was 40 and walked one at 43. Well, now I go for walks in the woods. I've slowed down, but I savor the scenery as I'm walking through it. Where when I was running past it, oh yeah, that's real pretty, but it wasn't the same. And I would say that's also true in relationships. That, you know, when you get to those connections, we're not in a hurry moving through them. They're different and slower and special in a different way.
Is there any way that people should approach dating any differently before they really head into it?
Oh, yeah. It's very, very different. It's complicated. You talked before about finances being one of the variables that comes into play. One person may have a much larger estate than the other. You know, who's going to cover the bills? How are you going to manage, you know, the traditional dating process? Also, families. Families become a big factor of the senior dating. Even by the time you're 50, your kids are getting a little bit worried. Well, are you wasting the estate?
Yeah.
You know, is he appropriate? Is he going to be taking all your money? Are you sure you need to take that trip? I mean, there are people with opinions that can make it more complicated.
And what do you do about that? Do you just learn to live with it, or tell them to get lost?
Well, I have red hair. Now, what do you think I'd do?
Yeah.
I don't think, I understand where there's a perspective where kids care about finances. I also think it's important for kids to earn their own living. And if there's money left over at the end of our joy, well, God bless them. But I don't think that seniors should be living their life with the thought that their hard work is supposed to be contributed to adult children so that they don't have to work as hard as you did.
There is a freedom that I hope others can experience. Have you seen that or noticed that or found that?
Absolutely. They're all different kinds of freedoms. When we get down to just our bodies, people are like, well, I don't know if I could, take my clothes off. I have a friend who is like, oh, I don't look like I did in my 20s. Well, let me tell you, you're not going to be dating a guy who looks like the guys in your 20s or 30s, even 40s. The reality is our bodies change, and you learn to embrace your body. With women, it's soft curves, and men aren't having six packs. And, there's a lot of difference there. And there's a freedom to that. There's a real freedom to letting go of that kind of perfection. Also, the financial freedoms, the things we had to consider important when we were younger, we get to choose what's important. Some people, traveling is their high priority, and they want to put all of their resources into their travel budget. Other people, that just doesn't matter. They want to be able to live their life closer. They want to be able to run off for weekends somewhere. They want to be able to go to concerts and things like that. So you have a freedom of looking at your resources in a different way. And also, I think there's a freedom in relationships. We don't need to put up with the things we put up with when we were younger. We understand we have choices. If somebody is there draining your energy with their negativity, well, walk away.
Yeah. For somebody who's just watching this, and what might be a pearl of wisdom that they could take away with them?
Live joy to your last breath. Don't let anything stand in the way, whether it's a challenge physically or mentally. Just choose the best path with what options are there. It's not worth losing that good spirit.
Great way to end and say goodbye. Thank you so much, Amy. Her book brings a new perspective on romantic literature. Finally, I want to share with you a project that I became part of with a bunch of men and women building toys out of wood, wooden toys for Christmas.
Maybe. Yeah. Take it out and have somebody and take it home.
I have joined them, and they promise it will be busier closer to Christmas, and I'll have more about that in a few weeks.
Andy, I look forward to hearing much more about that, and I think it's really neat that they make toys for kids and are actually preserving like this wooden, craft, which is not something that everyone can do. And I would also like to add that we have a kids event at Breathe and Balance Yoga in Lincoln on October 15th. If you'd like to check that out. There's 3 ways that you can support the Let's Talk Variety show.
Yeah, every week we bring some inspirational guests that can learn from, or you can learn from. So just take a moment to hit that subscribe button. And then the ultimate way to support the Let's Talk Variety Show is just write something, say something you love about the show, you learn from it. And the more reviews means the higher we rank on all those algorithms, which means bigger guests. So take a minute to leave a review.
And thirdly, you can be sure to share the show, and that just takes 1 second, or you can hit the little notification bell to get notifications. We live stream on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for supporting the Let's Talk Variety Show. See you next time. Bye.
See you later.